Well, we're delighted to be back here with another Manufacturing and Engineering Week podcast. And this time we are delighted to welcome Chris Barlow, Head of Manufacturing for MHA, who is also one of our sponsors. So we're delighted to welcome you today to the podcast. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you very much.
So we're going to talk about a number of things today, particularly around the challenges facing SMEs across manufacturing and engineering and how they can help their businesses and develop. But first things first, for those that don't know, can you tell us a little bit about MHA, who you are and what you do?
Yes, MHA are a firm of chartered accountants, business advisors, tax advisors, working with businesses to help them achieve what they want to achieve from their businesses. We are a national firm in the UK and part of an international network. So therefore, we can connect our clients and work with our clients across the board, across the world. And as I say, helping them to tackle any issues that arise within their businesses.
Brilliant. And we're absolutely thrilled that you are partnering with us at Manufacturing and Engineering Week coming up. It's very exciting. And what was it that kind of drew you into the whole project and joining us with it?
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, we're very pleased to be involved. We, as a business, have worked with manufacturing entities for many, many years in terms of firstly dealing with clients, but also representing the sector. For a number of years now, we've done a manufacturing and engineering report. This has gone out yearly, but more recently, because of the way that way that things are changing so much, we've done this on a more regular basis. It's gone out about 3 times a year. And this firstly takes a pulse of what we're seeing within the manufacturing and engineering space. So in the form of a survey, in the form of looking at results that businesses have achieved, and then taking those into government. We've had good engagement with government in recent years in terms of representing the sector there. So the opportunity to get involved on the ground, I suppose, with more manufacturing and engineering businesses was one of the main reasons that we looked to get involved, really, to help the sector, to help our clients, and to represent those businesses.
Brilliant. And so there's a number of topics we're going to cover today. One of the big ones, arguably, obviously the biggest thing facing the planet as a whole and has been for many years, is sustainability. So we've obviously recently had COP26. We've had lots of people talking about industry specifically, energy, innovation. There are net zero targets that all SMEs and all manufacturers of every size are now facing and striving to get to and achieve. But actually, it's quite complicated, and the implications, both financially and in terms of legal requirements, are quite complex. So I know that's something that you guys have focused on pretty extensively. So how have you found that impacting people actually in their businesses?
I think, as you rightly say, there's been a whole amount of conversation, particularly heading around COP26 and coming out of that. And I think the challenge to businesses is remembering how this fits within everything else that they're trying to deal with at the current stage. I think it's also remembering that there are probably at least 2 levels here that we're looking at in terms of large manufacturing businesses and smaller manufacturing businesses. And one of the things we see with our smaller manufacturing businesses is they're not necessarily early adopters on this thing. It's something that potentially they need to be encouraged down the route of. They need to be, I hesitate to use the word channeled down that line, really. So what we're doing is working with our businesses to see how we can help them in this regard. I think what they've realised is that to be on tender lists, to work with other manufacturing entities in this space, they need to be on that track towards sustainability targets. And things like the plastic packaging tax, which have recently come onto the agenda and will take up that space very shortly, are ways in which we've had conversations with clients. These sorts of taxes are very much pushing it back onto the entity in order that they need to register, they need to be aware of this tax, they need to know that if they're importing over 10 tonnes of plastic packaging material into the UK or making that, it's the sort of thing they need to register for. It's very easy that these sort of things can slip under the radar and businesses suddenly find that they're on the wrong side of legislation. So the sort of thing that we do is we sit down, we talk with our businesses, understand the sort of issues that they're facing, explain to them the challenges that are coming, and help them to work through that and find a way to not only take their business forward, but hopefully make their business not only compliant, but efficient in that regard as well.
Yeah. And I think it is that journey, isn't it? It's the challenge is, particularly if you're an SME, having enough time to take yourself away from the coalface as you're managing so many other aspects of the business, to then also realise potentially capital investment to actually make that happen. So I guess what you're talking about there is providing them with a kind of a pathway that enables them to do that more efficiently, and also hopefully save some money and save some pitfalls along the way.
Yes, absolutely. And as we said, it's a case of balancing this against everything else that's there at the moment, the other challenges within the sector, and making sure that they don't fall into this pitfall as things progress.
Yeah. And coming on to other challenges in the sector, one that's kind of, I know we don't use the B word, nobody uses the B word anymore, but obviously with global situations arising and global pandemics and so many other things that have happened, Brexit has kind of fallen off the radar, or certainly fallen off the news agenda in the same way. But, and I think it is a huge impact that we have to acknowledge, that particularly across the supply chain, ability to trade, the way that you used to be able to trade, the different regulation that's now in place, and the implications that has on every business has profoundly affected the UK. So how can manufacturing businesses be smarter, or how can you help them to navigate that particular area of challenge that Brexit has now caused? Because it is huge and it is complicated.
As you said, the B word is a difficult one, should we say. And I think that just take us back a few months or so, and there was fear about whether there was any sort of Brexit agreement. Then there was cheer that there was a Brexit agreement, and then everything has tried to be worked out from this. So entities have gone through a significant challenge through that time. And if you add to that balancing all the challenges in terms of raw materials and labour and the cost of fuel and inflation and war in Ukraine and everything there, it's a huge challenge. So what we've sat down with businesses and looked at is very much their supply chain, looked at the opportunities within there, and it's very simple to say, perhaps you should shorten your supply chain. But we all know that businesses are not simple like that. But we've looked at where are the blockages, where are the challenges, and for a number of businesses, it is that B word, it is Brexit, and it is everything that is connected to that, whether it's in the UK or trying to get things across to Northern Ireland. So we looked at something called inward processing. These are custom formalities. These are opportunities where businesses could potentially bring things into the UK without paying that duty in the first instance and paying it on the way out. But if they don't understand how these things work, and it is a complicated area, businesses potentially are missing out on a huge opportunity, not only in terms of their cash flow, but just in terms of their general compliance. We've looked at things like rules of origin. Rules of origin, again, a particularly complicated basis, but if businesses can sit down and understand that, and we can help them understand it, that's the sort of thing that can very much help them comply with legislation and get over some of these headaches that are there.
I mean, it's on so many levels, isn't it, that Brexit has impacted things. But there are channels and way through. But one of the things that I've always admired and loved about British manufacturing and engineering across the board is our ability to innovate. Right the way back to the original Industrial Revolution and beyond, it's always been amazing to me that as a small island, we've actually seemingly have this inbuilt innovation and creativity that kind of changes and molds and goes through. And it feels like there is a real need for innovation to carry us through. Everything we talk about net zero, whether it's digitization of manufacturing businesses, whether it's blockchain, whether it's, whichever aspect it's going to be, everything is powered by innovation. But at the same time, innovation costs money. Innovation has a significant impact, particularly if you're an SME. I mean, obviously it has an impact across the board, but dealing with SMEs, which is over 99% of all manufacturing and engineering businesses in the UK, it is that innovation. But there are opportunities, aren't there, for manufacturing and engineering firms to seize that R&D, seize that innovation and develop it, but also make savings and gain funding. So I know that's something you also help with. So perhaps you could explain some around that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's the important step as well is seeing R&D as part of that whole tax sphere, I suppose. There are various changes coming up in tax rates within the next year. There's increase in national insurance coming in the next month or so, and R&D, I've always said, is the most generous opportunity for businesses to take something which potentially they're doing in their day-to-day life and get some tax relief on it. It could be, and it's often missed by entities, where your customer comes back to you and says, can you just change this component here, or I've got an issue with this, can you help me stop this thing sticking, or whatever it happens to be. And in its very simplest form, that's R&D. The opportunities for businesses are significant. It is the most generous tax relief that businesses can obtain. And it could be, and what we've done with various entities here, is to help them channel those monies back into their business, so that rather than having to fund R&D through a bank loan or through other forms of finances, you're financing your business through R&D, putting those monies back in. 230% tax relief for an SME can be, well, firstly, it can be a lifesaver in some of the challenges we've just been through, but secondly, it can be the opportunity to grease those wheels of the business and take it forward. So it's sitting down with those businesses again. It's understanding what they do, looking at the advances that they're making, and creating that case for them, very much working with them to help them achieve what they want to achieve in their business.
So that's really interesting, because I absolutely agree with you. Obviously, we all know that cash flow is the lifeblood of every business, and there have been challenging times for most areas of industry. But sometimes, because the way you're talking about it there, but sometimes R&D can sound like like you've got this brand new product that's all had to be developed from scratch, that's going to go through this, that, and the other. But actually, from what you're saying, there are opportunities just from what you are already doing. So you needn't think, I need to develop something brand new in order to qualify for this. There is actually everything you're currently doing through different angles can constitute being R&D.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the important thing to remember. It doesn't need to be the proverbial person in the white coat who's developed something brand new. It can be a change in a process or a change in a product that has taken something forward within that whole sphere. And it's remembering that it's the costs of the product, but also related costs to that. It's wages costs, apportionment of overheads. It's such a generous opportunity that businesses are potentially missing out on if they don't understand what's going on in that area.
Okay. Well, I think that is the crucial thing, isn't it? That is that it's open to all, that it's an opportunity for all, and that most businesses, from what you're saying, are probably sitting on something that they don't realise. And I'm only guessing because I've not done it myself, obviously, but I'm assuming that the process, if you were to try and do it yourself, is going to be written in a jargonese that you need several translators to understand. So having something like you're talking about, that conversation to see where you're at, and then advice and support to actually implement and deliver it, is probably your quickest way to actually achieving something that then becomes a real value add for the business without absorbing your entire life.
Absolutely, yes. And I think it's recognising, I suppose, our expertise and our clients and other manufacturers' expertise, and using those in the right stages. It's very much a combination. It's us talking, perhaps asking those leading questions, shall we say, in that regard, but it's our manufacturing businesses who have developed that product or developed that process, and it's getting them to talk through, so that between us we can create that opportunity for them to claim money back into their business.
It's brilliant. It's been really insightful. Thank you so much for sharing all that's going on and all the different ways that we can support manufacturers. Obviously, you're going to be at Manufacturing and Engineering Week, so people can get in contact, can meet up with you, arrange for times with you and your team to actually set aside information on the show floor and actually find out how their business can be impacted then and there.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we are running some workshops, we're running some clinics in those areas that we've just been talking about, in terms of VAT, in terms of R&D, in terms also of corporate finance. That opportunity where perhaps you're looking to sell your business, or perhaps you're looking to acquire parts as well. And there'll be an opportunity to hear what our experts have to say, but also that opportunity perhaps afterwards to have a more detailed conversation about something that may be going on within your business.
Brilliant. Well, I think that sounds fantastic. Really looking forward to it. Looking forward to being there. That's the 8th and 9th of June 2022 at the NEC in Birmingham. Looking forward to it. And thank you so much again for your time. And thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me, and very much looking forward to the 8th and 9th of June. Thank you.
Brilliant.